Okay, so get this right. For this deep dive, you guys sent in this book called Unlocking Abundance with a subtitle like Seek First the Kingdom of God. Something, ultimate prosperity.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah. And honestly, like when I first saw the title, I was a little, woo-woo alert. Like, are we about to manifest some sports cars?
Right, gotta get that Lamborghini.
Exactly. But actually digging into it, it's a lot more grounded than I expected. It's less about, mystical chanting and more about how prioritizing your spiritual well-being, and we'll definitely unpack what that actually means because it can be kind of vague, is like the foundation for a better life, period.
100%.
Not just like financially, which is what a lot of people jump to with abundance, but also your relationships, your career, your sense of purpose, like the whole enchilada.
It's about feeling abundant.
Yes. And to help us, break down this whole spiritual abundance thing, we've got our awesome expert speaker here. So, one of the things that really jumped out at me from this book was this idea of spiritual well-being being like your internal GPS for life.
Oh, I love that metaphor.
Right, like guiding you toward, what the book calls true prosperity. Can you kind of expand on that a little? Like, how does focusing on your inner world actually help you navigate all the, external stuff more effectively?
Yeah, so, think about it. If you're going on a road trip, right, and you don't have a GPS, you might end up, taking a few wrong turns.
Totally getting lost.
Getting lost, yeah, running out of gas.
Oh, the worst.
But with a GPS, you've got that sense of direction. You know when there are roadblocks coming up, you can kind of see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And the book is saying that spiritual well-being is kind of like that.
Huh?
When you're grounded in a sense of purpose, when you're connected to something bigger than yourself, you develop this, inner compass.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not about, ignoring our material needs or pretending that everything's perfect all the time.
No, not at all.
It's about, approaching them from a more, I don't know, grounded place.
Yeah, I think it's more about recognizing that true abundance isn't just about, what you have.
Right.
It's also about how you feel, how you connect with others, how you show up in the world.
Yeah, that holistic thing.
Exactly.
And, that kind of leads into something else that I found really interesting in the book, which is this idea of, challenging the conventional definition of success, right? We're kind of, programmed to believe that success equals, a certain income level, a fancy job title, a big house, all that.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. But this book is kind of saying, maybe those are just byproducts, not the source of true prosperity. What do you think the author is getting at there?
Yeah, I think it's less about, completely rejecting material success, but more about thinking about where it sits, in your hierarchy of values.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, are you chasing after external validation? Or is it more about living a life that's aligned with your values? Going after your passions, your relationships, that's where true abundance comes from.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued because the book also talks about this ripple effect, how focusing on your inner world can create these positive waves out in your external world.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in your career, in your relationships. Can you give our listeners some real world examples of how this might actually show up in their life?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say you're in a job right now that's just totally draining you.
Ugh, yeah.
And you just don't feel like it lines up with your values at all. By taking the time to really connect with yourself, whether that's through meditation or journaling or just spending time in nature.
Or all of the above.
All of the above. You might uncover some passion or talent you didn't even know you had.
That's so cool.
Right. And then that new clarity could lead you to a career that's way more fulfilling,
100%.
Something that actually feels like you're living your purpose.
Love it.
Or in relationships, let's say you keep finding yourself with partners who don't really treat you with respect.
That's tough.
Right. But if you work on cultivating self-love and self-worth, which a lot of times comes from spiritual practice, you start setting healthier boundaries. You start attracting people who actually appreciate you for you.
It's also like that saying, water rises to its own level, right?
Right.
When we raise our own inner vibration, we attract things that are on that same wavelength.
Exactly. And that's where that whole idea of seeking first the kingdom of God from the book comes in.
Okay.
It's not about religious dogma necessarily, but more about prioritizing your spiritual growth, your connection to something beyond yourself,
Right.
Whatever that looks like for you.
I dig it. So just to be clear, we're not talking about some magic formula or mystical incantation here.
Yep.
It's more about like a fundamental shift in how you see things.
Yeah, it's about realizing that true abundance starts from within and then kind of like ripples out into everything else.
Love that. So to recap, right, this book, Unlocking Abundance, gives us this whole new perspective on what it means to be truly abundant. Like, it's not just about material wealth. It's this holistic thing. It starts on the inside.
Yeah.
And like, it uses terms like spiritual abundance and purpose-driven living, which I think is a cool way to connect this like ancient wisdom with our crazy modern world.
I agree.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought from the book.
Yeah.
Like, if prioritizing your spiritual well-being was the key to unlocking this more abundant life, where would you even begin? I think that's a pretty powerful question to sit with for a while.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.
Too.
And like, I hope this has given you some new ideas, something to think about as you're, on your own journey towards a more abundant life. Because it is a journey.
Totally a journey.
Stay curious, keep exploring, and, see what resonates for you.
That's the best advice.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.